Well, so it's very expensive. It's hideously expensive to keep rhinos secure because there's no cheap way to do it. Yeah, I know people who've invested in radar and thermal camera systems, and that's many, many millions of rands to protect your perimeter. We rely on much lower tech efforts, so we've got guys on motorcycles constantly circling our perimeter, searching for tracks, listening out in case, God forbid, they hear a gunshot or something else where a rhino's gone down. We have electric fencing with sensors. But as we invest in these things, the syndicates that we face figure out ways to defeat them. So recently we've had incursions where our electric fences haven't detected the entry because they've figured out how to beat those. So now we have to escalate. We have to think about how do we fund things like thermal cameras on drones, and not the silly commercial, the silly home use ones, but real powerful commercial ones. Those are R500,000 a pop. And then you have to train somebody to use that. And so it's really expensive, and that's where the challenge lies, is that most of us are hanging on by a thread. We don't have the additional funds to invest in security. We're covering veterinary costs, we're covering feed costs when the droughts hit. We have to manage these reserves. Water doesn't, it sounds ridiculous to say water doesn't just fall from the sky, because that's how most people experience it, but it doesn't in the places where we keep these reserves, not in sufficient quantities to aggregate into natural dams and pools. We pump it up from the ground so that the rhinos have dams and ponds that we create. All of these things take a tremendous amount of money to keep operating, and we just don't have the additional budgets to fund all sorts of new and innovative security interventions. We're struggling.
Are you subsidized by government?
We don't get any money from government. Typically, we don't get any help from NGOs either, because NGOs like to raise money with tearjerker campaigns talking about how they're helping this underdog or that underdog. And the rest of the world doesn't understand the critical role that private conservation has played in preserving rhino in this country. So they think of us as these pampered fat cats, billionaires with our rhino toys. And frankly, we're folks who've invested everything we've ever made in trying to make a difference in rhino conservation. Were we rich before we got into this? Yeah, we were quite comfortable. But we put all our money into trying to save the rhino. And that money runs out eventually. But NGOs don't get a lot of mileage out of helping private individuals and private reserves, even though we're the ones who now protect more than 4 times more rhino than the government still has left. So the future of the rhino depends upon our success, but that's not where the money finds its way.